not necessarily about like, hey, these Mexicans are bad, right? Like that's a bad broad statement, right? Like that's like, let's not do that. Okay, but if I make a broad statement about something eye-rolly, that's a different thing than looking in somebody's face and going, you're a moron because of this. I could just be saying, this is kind of an annoying thing. And most people who do it, that opinion, by the way, and say it as loudly as humanly possible. And so since those kind of opinions are on full display everywhere I turn, I kind of feel like I think Cat Dad is kind of lame is going to have to be okay with me saying that. Sorry. It's just the way that's going to be. It is also one of those things, watch now as I'll get called intolerant. It's kind of female, right? Like dog mommy and like, right, that's kind of female behavior. That doesn't necessarily, and by the way, I'm not like a male, like I'm not one of those. I can change a tire, I'll kill the bugs in the house. I got a gun in the nightstand. I like to drink, I like to look at women, right? I mean, but like I'm not like one of those like crushed beer cans over my head type of dudes at all. And even I look at it like, it's kind of female behavior. Men don't really do that. Like saying the word yummy, that's for women. That's a woman's word. Anytime I see a man type yummy, I'm like, oof, bro, did you get hacked? Well, what happened here? What happened here? Now, if you're at the tea party with your daughter or whatever, yes, there are times, because I know what I'm going to get. What about? And I did yummy 3 years ago. Right? Like, it's all going to be a thing. I know. The big bad media broadcasters messing with everybody. Oh, no. Right? But, like, at the end of the day, come on. We know what I'm saying is a little bit true. It's just a little bit true. And I hate to break it to everybody, this is an opinion-based program. So occasionally, my opinion is going to come out.
Like a wake and bake with an easy bake oven. The Stansberry Show on Rock 106.9.
It's 330-450-7625 to send a text to the studio. The microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio works as well. There's a term I like. It's called non-traversy versus controversy, and we see a lot of these. And normally, it's also referred to as fake outrage, right? And there's a lot of non-traversies out there. And I saw one kind of pop up yesterday. People are up in arms with Bill Maher for a lot of reasons these days. And it's because he really feels, did you hear about this? He thinks we need a new COVID commission. He's like, it's time for the Democrats and Fauci to admit, you got it all wrong. So can we maybe have some accountability now? Like, he's out here calling for stuff like that. And so a lot of people are really having an issue with Bill. He's being accused of some of the things that I will occasionally be accused of. You were once progressive and now you're secretly right. It's like, no, dude, it's like the progressive movement's gone so far in the opposite direction. It's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going all the way over there. Yeah, I'll stay right over here in 2004. Right? Yeah, 2004 was pretty good. I'm staying right here, right? Like that's kind of how that goes. And so Bill's being accused of a lot of that. And I think that's where some of the pushback on this is coming from. Because Bill also has his show on HBO, Real Time with Bill Maher, and I've been a fan and a viewer of it for a long, long time. I'm not as steady of a viewer of it these days as I once was, but I enjoy him. It's the show on TV I think is the worst at right of way on the microphone. And what that means is there's a host. If he's talking, everybody else shut up. Whoever the person in the second chair is, if they're talking, persons in third and fourth chair, you shut up right of way on the microphone. They are the absolute worst at it on Real Time with Bill Maher. Sometimes it's like, all right, I can't even listen to this because you're just talking over top of one another. But Bill also has a podcast, because who doesn't? And it's called Club Random. And he talks to everybody. And so there are people who don't like that. And one of the big gimmicks for Bill Maher's show is, as he's been a marijuana proponent forever, is he just sits back and chills, man. And we just like smoke joints and talk about stuff. Club Random. Right? which is hilarious. If he went on his HBO show and did it, it would be a huge problem. Still employed by, or at least contracted to put his product on that show. He does this in his free time. It's not really a problem. Just have him smoking joints on HBO. What are we doing here? But that's what people are upset about. Because apparently he wanted to book a guest who has his own podcast. Of course, have you noticed that's really what podcasting has turned into? They're all just going on each other's shows now, trying to keep, the new version of the tech bubble afloat. I mean, it's kind of what's happening there. He wanted to book Steve-O. And Steve-O would be a good guest. Honest guy, lays bare, not afraid to do it, and a pretty good storyteller. His voice, for me, after a while, like there are people who say that about me. My buddy's wife says, I don't mind you when you're at my house on Friday night. Your voice in the radio makes me want to kill you. Okay. You know what I mean? So like some people, it's just one of those things, right? Like a singing voice. Some people really like it. Rush, right? Some people really like it. Other people can't stand it. Steve-O's voice for me after a little while, it's like same with like Robert Kennedy Jr. Like everybody's like talking about that. It's like, dude, I hear that guy say 3 sentences. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. Right? And I'm just kind of out. So Steve-O wanted to accept the invitation to be on Club Random. But he says, quote, I'm clean and sober. It's very important that I maintain my sobriety. Again, it's about 16 years that he has been sober. There is nothing, he says, that I value more than my sobriety. So apparently he was upset when he agreed to go on Club Random as a guest, but said, would it be possible that Bill Maher doesn't smoke weed while hosting the podcast? And apparently Bill Maher said no. Steve-O said, I'd happily go on there, but while I'm on it, out of respect for my sobriety, could you refrain from smoking pot? He said no. And Steve-O said, okay, that's fine. That's a deal breaker for me. And Steve-O, by the way, again, has his own podcast, pretty large audience. So it's not like he has to go on Bill's show to promote anything. You don't really. Now, the more avenues you go on, the more audiences you get in sitting next to me, then I would be on your anti-Steve-O side. You're like, bro, that's not how that's going to work. Like, we can't put the bumper rails on the bowling lane of life because you have this issue. People can drink beer. Like, they can do that. Did I think it was an unfair request? He hates. Will that end up being the... how it works. To this then. The theme here. Or is it that, bro, you can't put addicted to it? His HBO show. Does he do it sober? You know how many of those 70s broadcasters had a fifth of gin in the desk? Most. You think Cronkite was out there sober every night? The amount of addicts in this business, oh my God, they're literally everywhere. You can't walk down the hallway without running into 10 of them. So plenty of people are doing their shows high on pills, high on this, or whatever the hell the thing is. So you couldn't, what's the big problem with changing this? You think every artist or every person you want to talk to is going to have this Steve-O request? They're not. Most of them want to come in there and smoke weed with you. I don't understand saying no here. You're going to change one thing to have an interesting guest, and you say no to that? It's almost like you're having a problem not smoking weed on your off time, Bill.
Kind of funny you can listen to him on your smart speaker.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
The Stansberry Show.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
On Rock 1069.
Welcome back to the Stansberry Show. We'll start New Tour Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Do have some new Beyonce featuring Miley Cyrus for you. New stuff from the X's, too. Had about a quarter of a hit with the song Ugly back in the mid-2000s. I actually like that album a lot that came off with. They got a new one. We'll play you that, too. New Tour Tuesday at 9. we had been talking about Steve-O and Bill Maher. Bill Maher hosts a podcast, so does Steve-O. They wanted Steve-O on the Bill pod, and he's like, look, man, Bill's whole thing is he smokes weed. You know, Club Random, he just sits there and gets high. He's like, I'm sober 16 years. I take my sobriety seriously. I'm not willing to toy with that if he's willing to not smoke weed. I'm not asking for the world to change. How the bar and room, we're a couple of feet apart. We're going to talk for an hour or longer, and you're going to be blowing marijuana straight in my face pretty much, and I don't want to deal with it. It makes being sober that much harder, and I bet that it would. Some people were, by the way, were anti-legalization of marijuana for that reason. I once upon a time worked with a heroin addict. Some of you know, it's been well documented. And he once said on the air, he was thankful he was a heroin addict and not an alcoholic. And I remember looking at him before he explained it. I was like, what in the hell do you mean by that? Because how does society look at alcohol versus heroin? Well, one will literally pedal on the hood of cars that are going 200 miles per hour and advertise in the middle of every single sport that you watch. The other one, dirty, hippies, bad. Now, one is different than the other. They are different, so maybe looking at them differently is okay too. But his point was this: if booze was his big thing, it would be harder to stay sober. It's on every shelf in the store. When you sit down at a restaurant, would you like something from the bar? It's literally, it's everywhere. Most social occasions, people are like, let's meet for a drink, or there's going to be a bar, or he said it would have been so much harder. It's like, they don't just have heroin on the shelf, man. He's like, that makes it easier for him. Now, I don't know if that makes it easier for people overall. I'm kind of giving you, what his opinion on his situation was. But I had never really looked at it like that until he said it, and I was like, oh, I can kind of see what you mean, right? Like, there's no bar in Canton that's like, hey, you want a bucket of heroin? It's actually cheaper if you buy a bucket of it, right? Like, there's no version of that. And so I could understand this. A listener of mine, I'll leave him nameless, has recently went into rehab. It makes me feel like I can take on the next thing. Yeah. Like I've said about teenagers trying things as they grow up, and that's why people refer to them as gateways, and why people who can't count to 11 think that that's an insane thought process, right? And but it really isn't. Like, it is. There are steps, right, that people will take. Notice most people don't start with heroin. I know, shocking development. And so, yeah, I think that is really what it's about, is that Steve-O's like, I'm not doing this, and I don't think it's an unfair request. As a matter of fact, a show host should be more upset about the guest wanting to depict content, not condition. Meaning, I'll come on the air, but I'm not talking about this, or this. You know the reason why you're booking me? Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Happens all of the time. Most of the times. You were faxed. Stay away from these things. It's not the company, by the way, it's their handlers, because they're in the PR game. They're not trying to have an open and honest conversation with you. They're trying to pimp something, and they're trying to keep you off the trail of the thing. So sometimes when the host is talking to somebody and you go, why didn't you ask him that? That's why. There was a deal put in place beforehand to not ask that question. That, by the way, to the broadcaster should be way more offensive than don't smoke marijuana in front of me. I'll remind everybody, marijuana is not legal in all the states. Legal where Bill Maher's doing the podcast from, okay. But like, we are having a conversation about something that is not federally legal across all the states, right? So like, it's not necessarily crazy that Steve-O's asking this. A lot of guests out there. There's literally a podcast called Drink Champs where they ask you questions, and if you refuse to answer, and it's, by the way, it's like Ice Cube or Tupac, and if you don't answer, we're drinking. It's a pretty popular podcast, Drink Champs. Does huge numbers. All about the alcohol consumption. So there's avenues for all of this stuff. I don't think it's necessarily crazy for Steve-O to say, no, man, I have to be Steve-O every day for the rest of my life. And in order for me to be alive, it's going to take me being vigilant on these things. You wanted him in the room. All he's saying is don't smoke weed. As the broadcaster, you should be way more offended when one of your guests wants to depict what it is you're talking about. It is Club Random with Bill Maher. It is Real Time with Bill Maher. You should be setting the parameters of what the conversation is, not the guest. That is what you can push back on the guest on, not doing drugs in front of them.
You're never too old for a good morning kiss. The Stansberry Show. Rock 106.9.
Welcome back to the program. Do have these Black Keys tickets for you. We'll get those passed out here in a moment. Show's not until October. Hook you up a little early. You know, I brought up the Powerball earlier because I said, I left the house last night purposely to buy tickets. All right, let me go get some. And turns out nobody had won them. As they say here at Powerball.com, the estimated jackpot now, 1.09 billion. Cash value of $527 million. I don't know why anybody would take the payments once it gets this big. What the hell are you going to do with $527 million? As a matter of fact, that's the question I want to ask. When they take the rest back in taxes, I wish lottery owners could say this. Okay, I understand you have to take a lot of it back. Okay, but since I'm the guy who won, and since it's essentially my money you took from me, I'd like to see a detailed layout of where that money's going to go. Can I see that, please? And I'm talking about per price break. Dollar amount. I want to, show me this, because it just kind of feels like, yeah, and then there's $500 million that we just take back, and then nothing ever gets better for you or I, right? I find that's an interesting thing. I also find this interesting. The billionaire thing. They're immoral. Unless you win it. You never notice that? You turn yourself into a billionaire by running a company, you're awful. And you didn't work. Have you noticed this? There's this new theory out there that business owners don't work. That all of their money is made off the labor of somebody else. Well, that's not true. Some of their money's made off the labor of other people. Yes. Because those people are required to continue to produce the thing that I want to buy from the people who own the company. So yeah, somebody somewhere is going to have to work and make less money than the person who owns the company. Are we really shocked to find that out? I know most of you are not. But are we really shocked to be finding that out? You sing your way into $1 billion, that's just you getting what you deserve. You invent your way into $1 billion, you're awful. And I'm not supposed to think our priorities are out of whack? Really? I'm not the first person to say this, but scientists should have trading cards. Not football players. Now, I know scientist is a dirty word these days, right? Dirty word. They're bad. And the truth is, a lot of them are bad. Science can be bought, for sure it can. Doesn't mean it always is. Doesn't mean it is in every instance. But can it be? Yes. Has it been in this country throughout my lifetime? I mean, yes. Yes. Yes, it has. But I've noticed that. You win $1 billion, it's not immoral that you have it. You create and innovate into $1 billion, you're public enemy number one. Why is that? Is it because we think it may be easier to win our way into $1 billion? Now that would normally be well, no, if it's easier, people would hate that. No, not really, when you think about the fact that what I'm saying is you actually think you could win the $1 billion, but you're not going to innovate your way to it, right? Neither am I. I'm not. Doesn't mean that I maybe don't have an idea that could be fleshed out that could make me a ton of money. I probably do. You probably do too. As a matter of fact, how many times have you had an idea and then 2 years later you see the product and you're like, damn it, I should have. That's what the business owner did. Is the I shoulda part, otherwise known as the difficult process. That part, that's what the owner did. And so I don't understand why they're always public enemy number one. Are there evil CEOs who don't give a damn about you or I? Well, yeah. Of course. I don't think it's everybody. Although I've said, how many people do you really care about? Start making a list in your head. Once you get past everybody whose first and last name you know, gets a little thin there, don't it? A little thin there. All of a sudden, watch those arms go around that pile of coins. I know what happens. I've said about the Powerball, I think it's almost polarizing. And that's not the word I mean. I'm sorry, I was reading two things at once. It can literally be too much to handle. That's money on a level you don't even dream about having. That is well outside the bounds of like what your biggest caviar dream is. What do? Do you quit your job? Well, not the day after they tell you where the ticket was sold, you don't. Otherwise, everybody's going to know it was you. Do you give your family money? Okay, but who? Mom. I thought about that the other day. I was like, all right, I'm going to have to give people money because I'm going to want to do things with people. So a couple of the guys I play golf with, I'm probably going to give them money. It's like, well, yeah, man, I can fly anywhere I want and I can go do anything I want, but I'm either going to pay for you or I'm going to give you money. So you might as well just give you some money. I'm going to need people to hang out with. I'm going to need things to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got her and the, you know what I mean? That whole thing. But like, she's so nuts. And she loves her job so much, if I won $500 million, I'm not sure she quits her job. She's just one of those. She loves what she does. She's all in. She's invested. Headhunters try to hire her away for more money 10 times a month. She's going to be so mad I said that. But it's true. Like 10 times a month, she'll just hang up on a headhunter. She doesn't want to go. She likes what she does. I honestly think if I had that much money, she'd be like, okay, that's great. How much of it are you giving to my company? How much of it are you giving to where I work? It would be a lot. It'd end up being a lot. So, like, I'm not even going on a ton of vacations with her because she'd be like, sorry, I'm going to work on Tuesday. She's one of those. And by those, I mean idiots. That's what I mean. It's like, we have $500 million. What the hell are you going into there for? We can literally donate to everybody in the world. But it could be a little like, I don't know, the most... It's like a custom-built jail cell a little. Because you don't really want everybody to know you have it. You don't. But good luck hiding $527 million. This is what I mean. If I won $15 million, I probably stay in the house I have. Because again, it's like, dude, why did he buy that? And where? I'd probably stay on the low. Right? Like, shh. Because 15 million could also go pretty fast, you know? And it's not like I'm going to buy another house with it, because if it sits empty too long, apparently I have to let other people live in it, and then they end up taking the house away from me because my government cares about me so goddamn much that apparently I just end up losing the house if somebody ends up sleeping in it for 31 days straight. So no thanks. Probably done with the investment properties. So I probably keep my house at 15 million. At 500, they tell me here the cash value is $527.3 million. I'm not even keeping it. Like, by the way, it's like, where are you going to move? To Beverly Hills? Miami? You're not even staying in the country with that much money. Like, bro, get me to Monaco. What the hell am I talking about? America? Get me the hell out of here. Like, seriously. You would go to, it's money like that. It's go to France for lunch because you can money. Like, there's no hiding that amount of money. People thought I was crazy earlier when I said I would give my boss some of the cash. I would. Absolutely, I would. Would I quit my job? Yes, absolutely. Would you not want to miss that Facebook Live video I did right after I quit my job? Let me tell you, that one you're going to want to hear, buddy. That one you're going to want to hear. But I have no axe to grind with my boss at all. None. Like, I know a lot of people want to go in there and, like, take a dump on their boss. Not at all. I have zero of that between he and I. I actually really like him. He stuck his neck out to hire me when a lot of people were like, what are you doing, dude? He's a problem and a half. Don't do that. And he was like, yeah, I think he's all right, though. I'm going to bring him in. He didn't have to do that. He did it not because he likes me. He did it because he knew it was going to be smart for him, too. That's exactly what managers are supposed to do. Make smart decisions for everybody involved, right? But I'd absolutely give him some money. I thought about that last night. I was like, if I win, what's the first thing I do? Well, the first thing I do is come here, probably overnight, and take all of my personal items out of the building. Take all my audio I want, make sure it's backed up on the hard drive. Then I come in the next day, I walk into his office, I hand him the check, and I say, thank you for everything. I appreciate the opportunity. Here's a little cash. I'm sorry, I'm not going on the air tomorrow. You want to play best of, you want to play Journey, I don't give a damn what it is you do, but it ain't going to be Stansbury Live. I'm out. And then shake his hand, thank him for the opportunity, and walk out. Absolutely. I feel like that's what makes me lucky. It's not just the fact that I have a job I enjoy doing, and I do. I love doing this. Absolutely love it. It's also the people I work with. I have had a job in the radio business that I could not wait to quit. And I mean, I could not wait to get the hell out of there. I would have quit. I would have that management team, you give me $527 million, I would have spent $528 million making sure they were miserable for the rest of their damn lives. Let me just tell you, no love lost there. None. And so I am very much happy, if I could use a phrase that doesn't make any sense, I am very happy that that is not the current situation. But yeah, about $527 million. So just go buy a piece of paper, man, and turn yourself into a multimillionaire. Because that's virtuous. Create something? Pfft, bro, you're the worst person alive. I do have these Black Keys tickets. That show is in October, and I'm going to take caller 12 right now. 330-450-7625. It's toll free at 800-243-7625 on those. And New Tour Tuesday's next on The Stansbury Show.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate. Not one based on the driver who treats the highway like a racetrack and the shoulder like a passing lane. Why pay a rate based on anyone else? Get one based on you with DriveWise from Allstate.
Not available in Alaska or California, subject to terms and conditions. Rates are determined by several factors, which vary by state. In some states, participation in DriveWise allows Allstate to use your driving data for purposes of rating. While in some states, your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Generally, safer drivers will save with DriveWise. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
You know that Big Bargain detergent jug is 80% water, right?
80% water? I thought I was getting a better deal because it's so big.
If you want a better clean, Tide Pods are only 12% water. The rest is pure, concentrated cleaning ingredients.
Ooh, pass me the intercom thingy.
Attention shoppers. If you want a real deal, try Tide Pods.
Don't pay for water. Pay for clean. If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Pods.
Water content based on the leading bargain liquid detergent.
Which is why I'm walking out of here feeling totally fine about who I am as a person. I'll pass out those STP tickets tomorrow morning. We will do that. Aside from that, done for the day. Not back live again until tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Be good to one another. And do, in fact, meet me here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for Thursday's program right here on Rock 106.9. Hopefully you have a decent afternoon, and hopefully I run into you somewhere around town.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That would make a fantastic addition to most people's vocabularies. Like, let's be honest about that, right? You used to hear that all the time. I don't know. Oh, I didn't know that before. You never hear that now. Everybody just assumes they know everything and that we can't learn anything new. I will leave the door open here when you consider world events that have happened. response, that one at least makes sense to me. Just screaming, build back better because you hate the president, I don't think makes a whole lot of sense. When you can lay out the argument for me of like, well, dude, come on. There's this. They lose power and the ship turns and like starts barreling towards the support structure. There I can hear you. Because that looks like a lot of like, oh man, that's going to be a little hard to argue all that away, won't it? Yeah, that's going to get a little uncomfortable when you got to argue all that away. I'll leave the door open. I still think what we're dealing with here is a mistake. But once you bring the Moscow terror event into it and you start talking retaliation, let's be honest. We're used to seeing retaliation done on other people's land. We're not normally used to seeing that on ours. But I think get ready. Because I think over more and more, you will start to see that. Especially now since you got half the country out there arguing against your own damn country. Oh, the worst place ever, so awful, blah, 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 terrible, we're the worst, we've never been the good guy, blah, 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 blah. Now, all of a sudden, if you want to retaliate on soil, you're going to have a large portion of Americans going, good, it's about time we get ours, which is crazy, but like that's out there now. And so if you combine that with your argument, it's not necessarily the craziest thing I've ever heard. You're not in tinfoil hat territory there. It's at least on the list of possibilities. But just screaming build back better or, you know, Biden did it or I did that with the sticker, it's like, come on. I get it's a little funny and we want to just, you know, make fun of the guy who craps his pants while giving speeches. I get it. I want to do it too. But like, he's not going to be guilty of every last thing. And I said, in order to be taken seriously with criticism, you got to pick and choose where that criticism comes out. Now, that may not be the metric you all have to live under, but it is the metric that people who have my job should. There is a difference there. And again, I am not afraid of the phrase, I don't know. Because I don't think there's anybody who's intelligent listening to me out there that is under the impression that there are things that I would not know. Because smart people understand there are plenty of things that they don't know, and there is too much information for anyone to know. So I'm not afraid of that phrase. I'm not afraid. And so I said multiple times this morning when we talked about it in the 7 o'clock hour, I'm leaving this door open.